Is the E46 going to go down as being the best M3? I think it could do. There's a chance. Now again, another bit of an opinion video, right? We did the Integra last week. I thought I'd just try and share some of this subjective handling knowledge on all of you. Just speak a little bit about cars rather than pretend that I'm interested in fixing them. Today's question is the E46 going to go down as being the best M3? Immediately you might be thinking, no, obviously not. A lot of you might put it right at the bottom of the panel, right? Why do I think it might be the best? Well, we're gonna have to go through the M3s first, and then we can build up the picture, and I'll let you know why I think the E46 may be getting its limelight very shortly as being the best M3. Why do I think that? Well, let's start with what an M3 is. Now, if you're watching this, you're either bored or you watched some of my videos to see if they're interesting, or maybe you've just typed in something to do with BMW M3s and you're just interested in the cars and you want to learn a bit more about them. You'll probably already know how the M3 got started. How did the M3 get started? Yes, correct. Racing. BMW needed a car to race. Yeah, they wanted to beat all the other German manufacturers at DTM and stuff like that. So they got this E30 and they spiced it up a bit. They made the original M3, the only one of them all to have a 4-cylinder engine, correct? Now what started with that M3 carried on throughout all the bunch, specifically individual throttle bodies. E30, E36, E46 and E90, they all had individual throttle bodies. Obviously 4, 6, 6 and then 8. Just letting you know what kind of information I've got stacked up for this video, right? That doesn't make the E46 the best one by any means, but we know what we're dealing with here, right? BMW M3s, certainly to me, there's not many cars that I, like more than that. And this is, it probably wasn't my favourite when I bought it, but in the circumstances that we're in now, in the world, in the climate, I'm starting to feel like this could be the pinnacle of a BMW M3. I think it could be. Now hear me out. E30, obviously very good, unattainable in today's world unless you've got bags of cash. You don't really see them getting driven, do you? You see some getting driven. Very occasionally will you see an E30 M3 on a track day, or even on the road. You know, they're getting to the stage now where you don't even see them on the road. You might have seen them at a car meet or something like that, but you know, it's not something that you see that often, is it? E30, very special car. Original M3, the king, right? The OG. But is it the best? I don't know. What about the E36? E36 M3. Now, that's when they went, let's go fast. So the original E30 M3, obviously, small-ish 4-cylinder, and straight up to a 6-cylinder, right? A big beef of an engine compared to the previous E30 M3. Now, we're in 6-cylinder land now, right? We're in 6-cylinder land. We've got this S50, we've got the S50 B32 and the Evo engine. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the American E36 M3. We're not even, we're not talking about the American, sorry. We're not even talking about the American E46, because that had its balls strangled a little bit as well, specifically through the headers. I think they had extra cats or something, but they were a bit strangled compared to the European ones. We're talking about European cars here in general, right? We're not talking about anything else. We're not focusing too much on special editions either, right? Because we just need to focus on the road cars, right? The regular M3s, that's what fits my narrative best. So that's what we're focusing on. So the E36 M3, yeah, that was all right. Why is that not the best? Well, it's probably the best looking if you asked me. You know, I do really like the way an E36 M3 looks, but what happened when they went to the E46, what made it that little bit better, well, they reached the peak of their development of this 6-cylinder naturally aspirated engine. The engine in this car is what makes it. A lot of people say they don't feel there's no torque on these cars, is there? These engines, the 3.2, make more torque per litre than any other naturally aspirated M3, more than the M5, the V10 one, even more than the McLaren F1. It actually held the title for a while until I think it was the Ferrari 458 stole the torque per litre crown away from this engine, because it's a peach. It's a cracking engine, and that's why you see so many people putting them in older stuff. That's why they're holding the money so much now, these S54 engines. They are the pinnacle. Now that is a big part of why I think the E46 is the best. E36 is lovely, it's a nice car, right? But BMW was still developing that engine, and ask them yourselves, they'll tell you the same. They knew they'd made it when they got to the S54. This engine, it's certainly my experience, almost 5 years of, you know, hellish driving. Perfect, and you do read some things on the internet, right? Vanos this and chuffing whatever that, and yeah, poor buddy's no effect, right? Not even BMW, okay? There's gonna be some things going wrong in here, so we're up to the E46 anyway. Why is the E46 the best? Well, S54 for one. Two, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? The E36 was nice, but they went from having this aggressive E30 body shell with big fat panels, and you know, they chopped it so much from a regular E30 to the E36, which had this monstrous engine, but they made the body look just like any other E36. How many E36s have you had to look twice at because it looks like an M3? And then you're thinking, hang on, could that be an M3? You wouldn't know. There is no way you can look at a regular E46 and think, that could be an M3. Despite all the M badges and all the tat you can stick on them, the way these sit compared to a regular one, when you put them side by side, it's obvious. BMW, they nailed the engine, but they also brought back the styling, right, on the E46. They brought it back. They said, this car needs to look aggressive as well, they said. They tamed it down a bit in the 90s. Who knows why, but they did. The E36, great car, but they made it look a bit, And what else did they do when they did that? Well, they kept the same kind of wheel well area on the E36 M3 as they did the regular E36s. Whereas on the E46 M3, you've got so much more budget to play with. You've got such a much wider stance and wider wheels as standard that you can fit much bigger tyres and not have to muck about too much. These will take up to even a 295 tyre on a stock arch if you get your wheels just right. E36, no chance. E36, you'll struggle to get 255s on, which these run standard on the rear. Yeah? So if an E46 has done the bodywork and it's got the engine and, you know, it's right at the cut-off of being too much, you know, driver aids and too heavy, a lot heavier than the E36 it was, yeah. Especially one like this, which is the full fat with the, you know, DVD sat nav and the electric heated seats and all that. But guess what? Get yourself a socket set, that all comes out. This one's about 170 kilos less than what an original one is, and that's just from taking quite a lot out. Yeah, I've only got one seat and I've, you know, lost quite a lot of the creature comforts. No more heated seats, no more sat nav from 2002. I can live without it, right? So yeah, they were a bit fatter, but if we're going to talk about weight, there's a big elephant in the room, isn't there? Yeah? The E90. The E90 was so much heavier than even these. And BMW made a lot of things alloy, and you know, they tried to make sure it wasn't so heavy, and it takes its weight well. It carries its weight well, yeah? The E90 still feels heavy, but it's definitely got the performance there to carry it through. The engine in the E90, is it better than the 6-cylinder in the E46? Of course it is. That's still an iron block, right? The E90 4-litre V8 weighs less than that engine. 4 litre, you've got an extra 800cc displacement, but the weight is less than the 3.2 in this. Did you know that? Did you? Put the numbers on screen somewhere, because they're quite similar. So the E90, ooh, that could be the pinnacle, right? That could be the best M3 ever. But there's just one thing Don't you think BMW's best straight six should be in BMW's best M3? Maybe. The V8, cracking engine, love it to bits. Yeah, sounds amazing. They did a really great job on that, and on the M5 S62. BMW can make a really good V8, but they can also make a very good straight six. And to me, a straight six is BMW. Same with the diesels, even. So what about the newer ones? You've got the F80 and the latest one. Well, I don't think we can put them in it, can we? Because that's when BMW started changing what an M3 was, even. You know, for the past 10 years or whatever, an M3's been a four-door car, right? They changed what an M3 was. And of course, there was a E46 M3 saloon as well. And, you know, they're even talking about doing an estate, a touring version of the latest M3, which, you know, fully support that, but, you know, an M3 is a two-door coupe at the heart, isn't it? A coupe, if you're that way inclined, yeah? That's what an M3 is. And I don't think the new ones... Okay, the M3s have got faster and faster every generation. BMW aren't going to release an M3 that's slower than the previous one, right? They've got faster and faster, and the engines have just got so much better. But what did they lose? Or what did they gain, let's say? What did they lose? What did they gain? They gained turbochargers. They lost, well... Naturally aspirated engines are something special. BMW naturally aspirated engines were, / still are, something special. They've done some of the best. They're probably the best at it. Okay, Honda have done some good naturally aspirated engines as well, but anything 6-cylinder and above, these guys, right? Who's better? On a mass production scale, who is better? Okay, we can't really call the McLaren F1 mass production, but, and I know Gordon Murray's doing bits at the minute, right? Yeah, that's fine, but who's done 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder engines naturally aspirated better than BMW? And what was their best 6-cylinder engine? It was the S54. And that's one big reason of why the E46 M3 might go down as being the best M3. But that's just my opinion, and it might be slightly biased. I always wanted an E46, but when I bought this about 5 years ago, it was the runt of the litter. E30s were unattainable. E36s were going up and up and up. E46s, they were at the bottom of the barrel. And E92s and F80s, you know. When I bought the E46, it was the bottom of the barrel, right? It was affordable, let's say. I know they've gone a bit daft now, for a bit more money, but when I got this car, I always wanted an M3. Wasn't too fussy on which one it was. Always loved the E46 M3. It's the one I grew up with. It's the one that when I first come into cars, it was brand new. That Tiff Needles video, the OG Tiff Needles, the English one. Do you remember the video? And the Guna Seca one. I can't remember if it's Fifth Gear or one of the motoring channels. That video instilled in my brain for a long time. So yeah, a little bit of a fanboy video, I guess, but I wanted to do a bit of talky talk again, yeah? A little bit of talky talk, take the pressure off the rest of the garage activities. But it's a bit of a community one because we're building a community on the Discord and all that. We're talking about stuff like this all the time, but the YouTube comments, we're not really having much discussions. Where's the discussions gone? Hopefully a few videos like this can get the discussions going. What's the best M3? Do you agree with me that it could be the E46? I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying this is the best M3, but I think it could be. For the reasons I've outlined, M3s are special cars, but which is the most special? Which will go down in history in 50 years' time or whatever as being the best M3? Food for thought. Let me know what you think. What do you think, dog? What is the best M3? What's the best M3? This one? So thanks for watching. Thanks to the Patreons. Subscribe for more videos. Won't be too many more like this, I'm running out of ideas. Catch me in the next video. Which MR2 is best? See you later.